Hey, this is Chuck, and you are listening to Fans with Bands, the podcast where we talk to the fans and the bands they dig about life, music, and whatever the hell else we want to talk about.
Today on Fans with Bands, we're talking to Widetrack. Check it out.
Hey, this is Chuck with Fans with Bands, and I'm talking to Ron and Zach from Widetrack. How you guys doing?
Hey, how you doing, Chuck?
I'm doing really good. It is so nice to be able to talk with you guys because I don't know when or where it was, but I recently stumbled upon your music, and I was just blown away. I absolutely I'm a big fan of progressive music in general, and I love the compositions that you guys are coming up with. Definitely has these elements of like Tool, Porcupine Tree. I was telling Zach before we started, there's a band from the early 90s called Dredge. I don't know if you guys ever listened to them. Sort of emotional, emotive, I should say, not emotional. Emotive, kind of hook-driven, very approachable music because you guys are playing stuff that's heavy, progressive, but it also has it's very listenable. You're not going to get blown away with like 8,000 notes or super crazy jazz compositions. It's stuff that sounds awesome, but is still progressive in nature and makes you feel great. At least it makes me feel great. And another band I was thinking of is Big Rack. I don't know if you guys have listened to them.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I'm thrilled that you guys are spending some time with me to talk on Fans with Bands. So thanks again for being on.
Oh, the privilege is all ours. We appreciate you reaching out.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you guys are welcome. I'd like to start pretty much where I start all the time, is in the beginning. How did Widetrack come to be?
Well, Zach's he's been around since the dawn of time. So.
Well, at least since the dawn of the band. I mean, it started when I was like 2, 3, and maybe even before that, technically, But I joined the band when I was about 12 or 13, and I was just starting to get into playing. I'd gotten a guitar for Christmas or my birthday, and I was kind of serious about it for a year, and then I put it down. And by the time I got into middle school, I was like, this is what I want to do. This is who I'm going to be. This is everything. And once that had happened, my dad said, well, hey, I've got a band, but we already have 2 guitar players. We need a bass player, though. And bass is like easy guitar. You could do it. And oh, how naive I was. I said, okay, I'll play the bass. And playing the bass gave me just a different perspective on learning music and going through a musical upbringing. I thought different bands were cooler because they had cool bass players. Rush and Tool were like the 2 idols of my fascination when I was, starting off on the bass. I wanted to learn every single Tool bass line, every single Rush bass line. And then all that seeped into Widetrack once we started writing the music with just the 2 of us. It became immediately apparent that it wasn't just because we were father and son, but it was also because we had this shared musical lineage and this genuine appreciation for the same stuff, that we could sort of like finish each other's musical sentences.
Oh, that's cool.
And so with our first album,
I got a really cool story to interrupt you with. I remember Zach was really young. It was probably when he first started playing with Widetrack, probably 12, right around that. And I remember I was like, I'm just going to go all out. And I sent him Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Take a Pebble.
Oh, man.
And I remember like thinking, yeah, there's no way. And he sent me a message back, and I knew he was sincere, because he's just not his style to be, he'll tell you what he thinks, and, but he was like, man, I really liked that.
Awesome.
I remember that too. I remember, like laying in my bed, listening to that song, thinking like, what? this was it. This is what I was looking for, you know? And from there it was King Crimson, Yes, Genesis,
Oh man.
on top of the Tool and Rush. So
Yeah.
that was where it began. And that sort of inspired the first things that we did in Wide Track together. But it was always balanced out with, you know, the the rock sort of sensibility and the melodic focus and wanting to create songs rather than, guitar parts and all that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, there was always like with the progressive thing, it was probably more Floyd than Dream Theater, I guess.
right.
It was always like, I mean, we if we had our choice between a band like Dream Theater and a band like Deftones, we would probably lean more towards the more emotional, like a emotionally driven music, more of that melancholic kind of vibe of Floyd, and even some of the mellower King Crimson stuff like Starless and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And we always appreciate. I mean, Zach, some of the stuff Zach sends me, and some of these musicians now are just
Oh
taking
yeah.
progressive. Like Zach's in a band called Exosphere, and they're just insane. It's insanely technical,
Awesome.
and it's cool because it's like we don't feel like we just appreciate all these bands. It's like when I was young, it was everybody was competing. It was
yeah.
like everybody kind of had this mistaken impression that there was just so much pie to go around, but now everybody's so supportive of one another. Like I see the way that Zach and all of his buddies at Berkeley are just so supportive of each other. It's like just one big bunch of supportive buddies coming to all the shows, and that's the way it should be. It's just
Yeah.
like, it's just so cool. We already got enough things stacked up against us, so enough of the forces out there to fight without having to get into fighting each other. So
Yeah. For sure.
being allies like that. And I think with our music, to just feel like, okay, we've already gone through the whole identity crisis stuff of running away from certain things that you might feel a little weird about, or you just embrace what is you, and that's it kind of settled us into a pretty cool little area where we feel like we have our own little, it's nothing major, but it's our own little thing, and that's all we're trying to keep continuing to hone.
Yeah. It's like I said. I mean, the music you guys are writing is really fantastic because I think you hit it on the head, Ron, when you were talking about the emotion of like the Deftones. You've got that heaviness. I appreciate Dream Theater. I appreciate super technical bands as well. I love the musicality and the ability to be almost like classical music. Because I always think of classical music as being the heavy metal like of music back in the day. When you listen to some of those compositions, it is amazing musical skill on all levels, composition and technical, physical dexterity and all that. And I dig that, but I really what I think you and Zach are bringing to the table is that that emotional connectivity, that melodic sense that makes the music just, you just want to put it on repeat and listen and go over it again and again and again. And you're
Oh,
not getting just like blown away with like, you know, again, some music, even ELP, which I love, and King Crimson, sometimes it can get really jazzy, kind of almost avant-garde, and
yeah.
it's cool, but you can get lost, and I don't know about you guys, but me personally, after a little bit, it's fatiguing, right? You're just oh, I gotta move
I'm the
on.
same way.
So
Yeah.
your music is that sweet spot where you've got, you can hear that you guys are very technical, skilled musicians, but then also creating some very just listenable music. So anyway,
That's great.
yeah,
Yeah, I appreciate that.
yeah. So the most recent album, which I picked up, was Galatea. Is that how you say that? Galatea. And I think it's
How do you
fantastic.
say that, Zach? Is it Galatea?
I think it's
Galatea.
Galatea. I think so.
Galatea. All
It's
right,
Greek
Galatea.
for it's a whole Greek legend or story, and that was mostly my dad's department. But like with anything, he was like, "What do you think about this name for the album?" And I gave me the old gladiator thumbs up.
Yes.
I said, "Yeah, sounds proggy." Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you guys compare that to earlier albums like Monoliths or Unawakening? How do you guys feel about this album compared to those?
Well, I think the biggest thing was that we had a number of live shows under our belts. So with The Awakening, that was the first album that we wrote together, and it spanned from pretty much the time that I was in like sixth grade to like getting out of middle school. Uh, so there's a range of different songs, ranging in different levels of maturity and complexity and energy. And I think it offers a lot of unique things. But what was sort of missing from that one and Monoliths as well were a number of songs that we could play live and that were just they worked on all levels. They were conceptually fulfilling to play. They were just physically um, fun to play, and they resonated with an audience in a more immediate level, while still balancing out the progginess and the having depth and
Yeah.
layers to all these things. Um, so we tried to approach this album from the viewpoint of what type of songs would we want to put in a live set, and also in the back of my head was what would somebody listening for the first time think of our sound with this album. So I tried to come up with ideas that were more focused and use more repetition, and and I think it just led to having songs that were more confident in the shelf life of. I mean, we think that we've got the stuff to really last us for a lot of gigs and a lot of other musical opportunities.
Yeah, that's what I'm glad you said that, because that was the first thing that came to my mind was like, when Zach joined up, he was so young and kind of going through his
Yeah.
stages, and thankfully when even on the albums, Unwakening and Monoliths, um we were always happy with the stuff we came up with, but I know lyrically a lot of the stuff was, it was very progressive rock type lyrics, a little more world event and apocalyptic kind of scenario stuff. And with this album, I kind of wanted to find a way to go more inward and be more emotional, because I just kind of, some of my favorite singers, like there's a guy, there was a band in the 80s called Marillion.
Oh
And,
yeah.
they had that big Scottish guy,
Yeah.
Fish. He's like one of my favorite lyricists of all time. And he's just this oafish, he's not a rock star looking dude,
Yeah.
but he is one of the most emotionally connecting singers I've ever seen live. And and the lyrics were all kind of love, heartbroken type stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then Zach and I saw Sleep Token at St. Andrew's Hall when nobody knew who they were, and we were really blown away. And I was like, that guy's up there in a freaking mask, just like tearing his heart out. All his lyrics are just so emotive, and it kind of gave me the confidence, and that with the Deftones stuff, and even like you mentioned, Porcupine Tree,
Oh yeah.
they got all this progressive stuff, but their most popular song is Trains,
Yeah.
and it's their simplest song, and it's more of a love. It's got love elements to it. So this stuff was kind of, I was like, I've done the whole prog lyricist kind of thing, and we did we have 9-minute songs, and we did that whole thing. And when we started playing this stuff all live, there was something like we kept, I credit Zach a lot because we were just pushing so hard for like 5 years, because I just felt like we just don't have the killer set list to play live yet. We're still writing and still writing. And then
Yeah.
when he said he was going out to Berkeley, he was like, I want to write a really good album before I go. And I think that was his way of making me feel a little less sad about him going. I was happy for him, but we really buckled down, and he just brought in all these cool ideas, and everything just kind of just took it on a life of its own. And we came up with the final 8 songs, and it just, we played it out we played it out 3 times now. And I'm like, man, I don't feel like we have to push to do a new album for a while. I want to kind of keep working this album
Yeah.
because we're still really in a good place with it. So
Yeah, it's a fantastic album. So you were kind of alluding to it a little bit, but what is that songwriting process like for you guys? Is it, you know, getting together, working out some things kind of spur of the moment, or, are one of you going away and kind of woodshedding on an idea, come back with almost a full structure and go, "Hey, what do you think?"
It's a lot more of the second one. We sort of trade off on roles. How a lot of songs will start is I'll have maybe a guitar part or a couple different parts, and I'll show them to my dad, and then he'll take on the producer role of saying this part should happen again, and maybe let's do one more part here, and then once we have a song that it just works instrumentally, then we trade off, and my dad goes and he'll write vocals to the songs, just yeah, to get the melody, the notes first. He'll bring it back to me and he'll say, how's this working?
Yeah.
And for most things, it's pretty intuitive. We there's rarely any that are like, like, oh, this is just isn't going to work, we have to scrap it. And we arrive on something that we're both really excited about.
Nice.
there's the first 3 Widetrack albums were, obviously when I was just doing this by myself.
Yeah.
I never wanted it to be a solo project. I always liked the feel of a collaborative effort that a band offered, but I just didn't have the right collaborators until he came along. And I kind of had a more simplistic way of writing. So as he's grown as a musician, it's really brought out a lot of challenging things for me. And when I was doing those albums by myself, I didn't really have to run stuff by. If I had an idea, I would just
Yeah.
go with it. Well, now it's like if he doesn't like something, there's been a couple times where you feel that little ego rub where you're like, oh God, well, I like that. But then every time that I just trust the collaboration and I go and I try other things, we're always happy with pushing for something that we're both happy with. And it's been really cool. As he's getting better as a musician, it's because when you start getting a little older, you feel like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to learn new tricks. I'm an old dog. But it's been cool to be pushed out of that old man thing, and
Yeah.
it's like, no, you still gotta show up, and you still gotta, like, don't be so rigid about things. And it's just paid off so much.
Yeah. The music is definitely a testament to that. One of the songs that I love, all those tunes on Galatea are great, but one that stands out for me is called Ivory. And I was curious, what inspired that song, and how was give me the backstory on how that was created.
Well, as far as the music, a lot of all the heavier parts were written first, and them on their own didn't really amount to a whole lot of a song. It was very, one dimensional. And so I sat with it for a while, and I thought, like, I can hear it going to something quieter, and bringing the the dynamic down a little bit and giving it some shape. And that middle section ended up just being one of those things that you
Yeah.
sit down to write, and it takes you 20 minutes, and then bam, it's painless. And it ended up kind of justifying the rest of the song. And so then it was like, oh, now this is one of our favorites. Where before it was like, oh, it's just some riffs, and but now it's like each one is kind of in the context of the rest of the song, which is something that we got to explore a lot on Galatea.
Fantastic. Yeah. That tune is yeah, I think it is that middle part how it just kind of brings everything together. It's just yeah, fantastic. I was curious during the making of this album, what did you learn either about yourself or about the recording process that you didn't know before uh, during previous work on other albums?
One of the things that I alluded to it earlier was that we kind of felt like more comfortable writing shorter songs,
Mm-hmm.
more concise, melodic. It's like we said, we love the progressive stuff, and it's nice to be able to, if something like that comes out, then we don't shy away from it. But we also just love. I mean, we both of us just love R&B music. I mean, like crazy. Like we listened to the first two Maxwell albums a lot. like, I mean, we love that stuff. And there's a lot of beauty and technical value in simplicity. Um, and that kind of informs like when we're getting a little too carried away. Um, and honestly, you playing, like I said before, playing stuff out live.
For sure.
If if you
Helps.
if it doesn't connect, it doesn't matter how cool you think the thing you're doing is. Like the thing you're talking about, the little musical passage. Um, that never would have made the cut if it was something that was just tacked on to show off musical expertise. But it just seemed to really add to the song. It fits with the song. It doesn't seem like a detour or anything.
Yeah.
It seems to be a natural part of the song, and it's just kind of incidental that it's a tricky little thing.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that, if we're going to do something technical, that's why we love Rush. Rush is like, Rush does all this crazy stuff, but it always serves the song. It's never like something like, oh, okay, these guys are getting a little out of hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so yeah, I think we learned to embrace the simplicity a little bit more, and to be because it's hard to write a really good simple song.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people think it's easy, but it is not easy.
No.
It's,
And to make it something that's memorable and like you had mentioned earlier, emotive, like that it pulls somebody in, that it actually, when people talk about hooks, that you do like that. I mean, you want that kind of thing in music, and a short song that can do that well, that's the chef's
I
kiss.
remember my buddy said to me one day, he was like, "Man, I think I like Perfect Circle better than Tool," and I was like, "You're crazy, man! I love Perfect Circle. I love them,
Yeah.
but better than Tool." And I kind of get what he was saying, because if you're not a fan of progressive rock and you just want a song that's a straightforward song, Perfect Circle is great for that. And they demand a little bit more out of their listeners,
Yeah. Yeah.
So try to find that sweet spot, because it can be fun. Like that's like we said, we love the Mars Volta. That's another band that we just adore. Like we're probably in the way that we are, in the way that we operate as a band. We're probably more like them than anybody else. I don't think our music is anything like them, but we really relate with how they run their band. And it isn't so much a hard and fast rule of you have to do this or you have to do that. It's just like, does it come across? You
Right.
know, and
Right.
that's what we found with this album is that it's I don't know if that's so much a lesson that we learned, but it's like, oh wow, it feels different when it feels like it's connecting. I like all of our older stuff, but there's a lot of it that I understand why it doesn't connect as much as this stuff does. um, but yeah, I love the idea of you took I was watching this guy last night on YouTube. He was talking about the Queensryche albums, and they had their first full length album. The Warning was
The
this
Warning.
metal
Yeah. Yeah.
opus,
Yeah.
and then they did this Rage for Order thing that had all this technology and stuff, and it's like people can't really compare those albums. They can't compare their album because they change so much from album to album and they evolve. But it's like, but you only get that real straightforward metal on that album, and then this album is this, and this album is that. So everything kind of has, its own beauty, um, album to album.
Yeah.
And even if it's not the sound that you end up getting known for or whatever, it's kind of a novel thing that you have that available.
Yeah, I think Rush has done that to some extent as well, because you've got different eras. You start with the very first Rush album, which is very rock, right?
Yeah.
Hard rock, and then they started getting more and more progressive, and then by the time you get to past moving pictures, you're into a completely different sound almost. When Getty's like got 8,000 things going on, he's playing bass while playing 8 synthesizers and going nuts.
Well, I think that's the beautiful thing about the jazz music. A lot of the stuff Zach's immersed in right now is like, you take a guy like Miles Davis or whatever, and you got every flavor of Miles. You want
Yeah.
which Miles Davis do you want? You want when he was doing his groove thing. You want when and I just think that's so cool. It's like it's some bands, it's like with AC/DC, you want the same album over and over, but then other bands like Radiohead is another band that we just adore. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
it's part of the deal. Like, I want them to be completely selfish, and
Yeah.
because what I'm more interested in is where are they creatively now, what is lighting them up. And I always, it's like a Stanley Kubrick movie. I have to watch it a few times before I really kind of start warming up to it. And then I realize, oh wow, this was just so far ahead of me.
Yeah.
And I love that feeling. I love I love being challenged by something. I think that an album will have a lot longer shelf life for me if I had to kind of do some work to get into it.
Yeah. 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 Especially Radiohead, because I got into them, well, like most people, probably with Creep, and that was it, Pablo Honey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then was just blown away with those later albums. It's like, oh my god, so good, and that's probably my most favorite stuff, from them. But
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely one of our favorite bands for sure.
yeah. What is it?
And would you call them prog? I mean, I
I
would.
I would, yeah, yeah,
If the word means anything, Radiohead.
yeah, yeah,
It's, you know.
yeah, yeah.
But
Because if you think about it, progressive is, you know, in my mind, experimentation, um, like exploring musical depths, So, but in a rock format is, because obviously there's all different kinds of progressive. You can folk music, jazz, whatever, but it's kind of exploring the boundaries of where, to me, that's what I think of it as. And yeah, Radiohead for sure would fit in that just as easily as Rush or any of those other bands. Yeah. So I am curious now that we're talking about music, in terms of other bands, like what were we've touched on some, but what were the kind of influences from a musical standpoint for each of you in terms of your instruments that you play and just in terms of the music that you like? And how has that evolved over time? And who wants to go first?
Sure. I guess, well, we were talking about it earlier. When I first started off, my musical influences were very bass oriented. That was the main thing I liked about a band. Rush, Zeppelin, Tool, um, then getting into, Jocko and Victor Wooten and those sorts of
Yeah.
players. And it was the people who, made the sounds and the music with the instruments that were the most unique, that I thought was the most appealing. But then, there was other stuff that I liked that really wasn't that bass driven. Like, or that I didn't really resonate with because of the bass specifically, um, like bands like Genesis or King Crimson, which are also in the prog world, have, amazing bass. Yeah, no doubt about it. But I was more drawn to their songs and the way they, just took you on a journey when you listened to them. And then once I got into, high school, I started wanting to find the bands that were in my generation, or at least newer,
Mm-hmm.
that continue that same tradition, um, to sort of bridge the gap between my musical culture and upbringing, and then the things that, all my friends and peers were listening to. And so I got into, a lot of bands like Periphery was a big one.
Oh yeah.
Um, Gosh, who else? I mean, obviously there's
Yeah.
bands like, yeah, Polyphia. Yeah, I got really into them. The bands, who were just did stuff. It became more like guitar bands, but just the bands who made the stuff instrumentally, that just made you go like, what? And not just with like technique, but also like, who would think to do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and of course all that is tempered with, you know, there has to be some modicum of songwriting for any of
Right.
these things. Like, if you want to be a prog band, that's great. You can have all the chops in the world, but it's the bands that can write a song, um, that are worth listening to in my book. And I think that's a lot of what's on the wide track stuff, is mostly, it's inspired by, you know 95% or maybe 90% of, those old bands that I grew up, or we both grew up listening to. And then there's a little extra with, some of the production and some of the other aesthetic choices with, some newer bands, like Sleep Token and Periphery, and those, sorts of newer bands.
Yeah.
There's
Cool.
one band that you're forgetting. There's a band out of Japan that we really love.
Oh, of course. You talk about this one.
They're called Tay.
Tay.
TE.
Oh.
They're post rock, no vocals. They're just four guys, and their energy is just so electric. It's just so that I think you would really like it. It's very in line with what the stuff you're talking about.
Okay.
It's
Cool.
very emotionally driven music, but to watch the live videos of them is just because it's not uncontrolled. It's very controlled, but just very like an exhilarating type vibe.
Yeah.
But they have like the quiet passages, and then they explode, and but we shamelessly have just ripped off those guys. I've tried to reach out to them. We've covered their song, one of their songs. I sent them a copy of us, a video of us playing one of their songs. Never heard back from them.
Oh man.
But we always wanted it. It's always been a dream gig to open for those guys.
Oh, awesome.
And it's just a shame more people don't know who they are. They're
Well,
pretty popular in Japan, aren't they? Like, wouldn't you
I
say that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we like about them, is they're sort of underground.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
But it's TE, right?
that's
Tay.
E with a like a
Yeah.
oh
apostrophe
Yeah.
after, like a
Yeah.
little.
Yep.
yeah, a little accent on. Yeah, but I mean, that's like I'd be surprised if you heard the two of us side by side and did not think that, we ripped them off because I mean that's like a huge source of inspiration.
Oh man, awesome!
Very
I gotta
true.
check
But
them out.
it's hard to talk about because you say like, oh yeah, we're really inspired by Tay, and people go like, who's that? Which is like, good for us because it
Yeah,
means we sound,
Yeah.
like a little bit more original or whatever. But no, I mean, yeah, I suppose you could say that about any one of these bands.
for sure. Yeah,
But yeah, that's the excuse to talk about one of our underground favorites.
Yeah.
awesome. Have you ever heard of a band called I think it's Gong? They're
Oh yeah. Yeah. Older,
yeah,
like 70s.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they're great.
yeah.
That,
Because
that
there's
band is really influential to the Mars Volta. That's one of the bands they cite as one of their influences.
yeah. Because I was talking to Curvy, who's a guitar player in a band that you guys might dig, another progressive band here in Michigan called Custard Flux.
Oh,
Uh,
that's a cool name.
yeah, and very Genesis oriented. Super cool songs. And anyway, Tay made me think of that because Kirby might have mentioned them as well as Gong. So yeah, you got me off into that tangent.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that Genesis Peter Gabriel era stuff is up there too.
Yeah, yeah,
That's some of our favorite stuff too. That's just, I mean, there's just so much great music out there. We really grew up. To be born at this time in history is just,
yeah.
it,
It
it's,
it's pretty cool.
yeah.
So speaking of tangential, because it's on the tip of my tongue right now. Have you guys listened to? I'm gonna butcher the name. It's French.
Oh
Angine
yes,
du
We were just
Poitrine.
talking about them yesterday.
of course.
Yeah.
Yes. Prague is cool again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is so awesome, and it's so weirdly wonderful, like, because
Oh,
it's
love it.
it's like what is going on here, you know? I mean, don't even look at them, like, which that's another whole like mind, you're just like, wow, what is going on here? But don't even look at them, just listen to that music, and you're like, what is this? It's just
They're
that,
extraterrestrials.
yeah,
They have to be. Yeah.
it is,
Yeah, it's super
it's,
inspiring because it's also two guys making
yeah.
progressive music,
Yeah.
and I mean you know
So
that's
Zach,
like something to aspire to. Yeah.
yeah, are you thinking about getting a microtonal guitar and?
Oh yeah. Well, whenever I try to bend, I hit all those microtones
Yeah.
unintentionally. So
It's funny. I had asked you about that a couple of years back. I said, "Well, what are the notes called when you bend a note and you're in between the two notes?" And you're like, "Well, that's microtone, duh." Like, I didn't know that was a thing, and now here's somebody creating music, and it's defying the whole AI music
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It's just great.
Yeah.
I love that, artists will just push back on these threats to their art, like
Yeah.
Suno, you're not, I'm not going down that easily, Suno, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
uh, that's an interesting topic because it comes up all the time as far as like AI and creativity and the uses, because you see it, like I do a lot of concert photography. There's not going to be AI going to a show and taking pictures of bands, so that's never going to be replaced. Where you see it is where in graphic design where someone's trying. You see in the posters and stuff that people have made that are just pure AI garbage, and it all looks the same. But I feel like music is, I know that the AI, they've got these AI bands and people are all losing their shit about it, but I feel like that music appeals to a certain level of people that have always loved popular music, which has some of the same components. Doesn't really have, to me, authenticity and like depth of feeling necessarily. And there's some popular artists that do write their own music and are emotive, but I feel like most musicians aren't going to be suffering from that, like you guys, or the poitrine guys and all that stuff. It's music that is real, and I think that'll always have an appeal.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, like you said, with going to a show, um, which I'm excited for the possibility of that being more and more important to people, because I know it's become only more and more important to me,
Mm-hmm.
is, seeing bands in person and making, a real human connection beyond the phone screen.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, there's things to look forward to.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So you segued nicely. What was the very first show that each of you have gone to? Very first concert.
On to. Well, I remember mine vaguely. It was 2010, which would have made me 6. Um, Either 2010 or 2012. I forget. It was one of Kiss's many farewell tours. And growing up, I loved Kiss. My dad showed me the videos of the blood and the fire and the stage. Yeah, I mean, just it didn't matter. It was what it was. It
It
was
was
awesome. I was
yeah.
just transfixed. And so when they came into town and played at Pine Knob or wherever it was, I think it was Pine Knob. We went, and I think I was like, "Oh, this is too loud. I want to go home." And 10 minutes in, my dad was like, "Oh, I mean, okay, we can go home, but you're gonna miss the blood." And I said, "Whoa, I mean, I guess we could stay a little bit longer." And you know,
Okay,
sat
I
there
gotta
through the
go home
rest of
now
it.
that I saw the blood. You're gonna miss the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my first show, and honestly, that I think I was so young, but part of it was like, that's tough to compete with
Yeah.
the image of them playing on stage in the 70s. I mean, that's just so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
it's just hard to compete with.
It's hard to convey to people now that are young now. It's like, dude, when I was a kid, Kiss was like Led Zeppelin and superheroes and Black Sabbath all mixed up. There was no cooler thing on earth, you
Oh
know.
yeah. I was a huge
They
Kiss fan. Huge.
Yeah, and they hadn't jumped that shark a million times,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And now, that's why everybody sees them now, and it's like, well, of course they become, self-parody and all that. But back in the day, so when he was young, I used to put those concerts on because I was having a little bit of a renaissance period with that stuff and
Uh,
revisiting those old 70s era live Kiss concerts.
yeah.
And he grew up watching that stuff. He loved that stuff. He knew all the songs, and we always talked like, gosh, that's one thing about when we play live. It's like that's the kind of energy. It's why we loved like Soundgarden as opposed to a Dream Theater, because Soundgarden, I mean, people say Chris Cornell could be a little pitchy with his vocals, or maybe they miss a chord, but they were just up there. It was like watching lava pour from the sky when you
Yeah.
saw these guys play. And other bands just kind of stand there and try to be precise, and it's just a whole different energy. But I, you watch those old Kiss videos, and it's like they just were just going all out. It was
Yeah.
just such a, that's what rock music is just throwing down like that. So trying to find that, where you're not messing up so much, and just getting into it.
Right.
But if we had to kind of pick between the two, it's like, people are kind of hearing with their eyes when they're going to see a show, and you definitely don't want to lose the energy of just immersing into that moment.
For sure. Yeah, it's great to have a good when you're at a live show to have a band that's like moving around and being active on stage. I think that's a part of the appeal. One is listening to the music, but also the visual aspect is fun too. Just kind of conveys the energy that the band's feeling, and it kind of is infectious. It gets into you
Yeah.
as a concert goer. So Ron, what was your first concert?
Oh, my first concert was the Jay Giles band.
All right, awesome.
Yeah, Freeze Frame tour. 1981. Um, that was back when you could take a keg into Pine Knob. My dad had a keg. He brought a keg into a keg or a case. I can't remember, but you could take a keg back in, oh my gosh, back in the day. The first show that Zach and I ever went to together, besides the Kiss show, but after he started playing was Tool at
Oh wow.
DTE, and I think on their 10,000 Days tour, or I forget what tour it was, but
Not the most recent, or
Yeah, it wouldn't have been for an album. It was sometime,
no,
around like
they had a chip thing
2016.
with the drums and stuff. So it was probably like a pre-show for warm up for their Fear Inoculum thing that they did.
oh yeah.
But
Because
yeah,
where was it? It was at Pine Knob?
DT, yeah.
DT, yeah, yeah. Because I think I went to that show because Adam was doing like a sort of like a clinic beforehand. If you bought the
Oh,
VIP tickets, you could go see him.
oh, wow.
And so I splurged on that. So me and
Cool.
my buddy. So it was totally like you have to leave all your shit in the car. Don't try to you know no cameras, no nothing. Right? Just come in. Adam will come in. He'll play. There was a lot of security. It was wild. They had like some super beefy dudes that were like escorted him in. But then once he was in there, he was like super cool, and he played. He was talking about how they come up with some of their riffs, and it was super cool. It was awesome. I wish I could have recorded it because it would be fun to
Yeah.
just go back and see what that was like. But it was a good experience, and I think it was that tour because they hadn't been playing any shows for quite a while, and then they came back and
That's the kind of stuff I love hearing about, because it's like it's so hard when you're in a band these days and you're trying to figure out, like, you're trying to figure out how to transmit your social media branding or whatever,
mm-hmm.
and what kind of things do you want to offer people. You can offer a VIP experience, but what is that going to be? Is that going to be like we hang out and we drink beer, or
Yeah.
is it to be something like what you're talking about? um, or is it some kind of question and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's, you just
I
don't know.
they've been all over the place because I did one with Primus. So when the last time they played, did the VIP thing, and they just kind of answered questions. They just
Okay.
came out, hung out for a little bit, answered some questions. I did that with Claypool, Lennon Claypool Delirium as well.
Oh, cool.
And in that one, you got to drink some of Les's wine because I guess he makes wine. So
Oh,
yeah, so that was pretty cool. That was fun.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, less about me, more about you guys. So, what is the plan going forward for Widetrack? I know Zach, you are in Boston, studying at Berkeley, which is fantastic and super cool and inspiring. So, what's next for you guys?
Well, we got some shows lined up in the summer that we're very excited about.
Nice.
Some other things in the works,
Ooh, nice.
and
Have the show?
more than anything, we're excited to get back in person. Because I've been up at school since um, you know, I mean, consistently since the summer. So we'll have a stretch of time to, who knows what'll happen. We've talked about, writing and just seeing what happens, and it's many possibilities.
Awesome. So, are the shows, have they been announced, or is that still in the works for the
we
summer?
we every year we and when I say every year, the first one was last year. But we do we've kind of we have a recording studio upstairs here, and it's where we do all of our rehearsing and stuff. And we had a house concert last year that we invited. It's about a 35 people type
Cool.
thing. And we would like to extend the invite to you.
That would be
We're going to do
awesome.
that on June 20th, and I wanted to reach out. I already sent her a message about it, but I wanted to reach out to our friend Lori Stratton.
Oh yeah, Lori, she's awesome.
Yeah, I love her. She's great. But I was going to reach out to her and her husband about coming. Like they were here last year, and it's just all our close friends and family and stuff. And that's where we debuted Galatea was last year at that. So we're going to be doing that, and then we're trying to work out something at Motor City Guitar in Waterford.
Oh, cool.
He's already kind of given us the green light to do a show there, and I was thinking that would be
that would be awesome.
And to end the summer just before Zach goes back.
Yeah.
So to kind of work that out, and we're just kind of putting the feelers out right now for one or two other type things, because we got so much writing, and we have a cover band that we go and we're doing weddings and stuff, and it gets really busy with that in the summer. So we're kind of trying to fit all these things in while he's home, and he goes back to Berkeley in September, and then he's there till May, and then he's done. So to try to squeeze all these things in and best laid plans and all that, but
right. Yeah, you want to experience the summer and have fun, but then also like, oh, we got a limited amount of time. I want to get as much good stuff in as possible, but not feel so burned out that you're like, oh man, I need a rest from summer.
yeah, it's and then he's going to Italy for a month.
Oh, awesome! When are you going to Italy? Because I'm going to Italy in September.
I'm going in August.
Oh, awesome!
You're the beginning of August, end of July.
Where to in Italy?
My really good friend from high school lives out in Turin, and haven't seen him in a number of years, so going out to pay him a visit and crash on his couch and
nice.
Get up to some hijinks.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I love going to Italy. It's such a great place. Been a couple times, but have not been to Turin. It's crazy. Been up to Milan, but not Turin. So, all right, cool. Excellent.
I'm jealous, you guys.
Yeah, me, my wife, and her sister and her husband, we're going to walk from Assisi to Rome. So 154 miles of Italy. It'll be awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds like a life-changing experience.
Yeah, it should be awesome. So I'll have to, put some Widetrack on my, I'll have it on the laptop. So yeah, I can put that on the phone. It'll be good.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. Well, Zach, Ron, it was so great to talk with you guys. So appreciate you being on Fans with Bands.
Oh, thank you, Chuck. We really appreciate you having us.
Thank you.
I got one last question for each of you, and that is, pineapple or no pineapple on pizza?
You know what? Do it. Why not? Feels good. Do it.
There you go.
I'm gonna confess something here for the first time, man, and I've dissed it. I've said, oh, you don't do that, but I've honestly never tried it.
So, here's the thing, man. I hadn't tried it either. And I still don't know if I have tried it, but I've come around on warm pineapple as a whole. I had like this veggie burger with pineapple on it, and the pineapple was hot. It was amazing.
Oh, wow.
I implore you, if you have not tried hot pineapple, it's not just good cold. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, thank you guys again for being on Fans with Bands. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
I'll send you an invite to the house concert.
All right, sounds good.
All righty.
Bands are nothing without you, the fans. Purchasing music and merchandise is critical to their survival. If you can help out your favorite bands, please do. If you're in Michigan, consider following the Playing in Detroit Area Tonight and SE for Southeast Michigan Music Facebook pages. They are fantastic places for fans and bands to support each other and share our combined love of music. Thank you all so much for listening. Be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast service to get each and every episode of Fans with Bands. Spread the word by rating the show, telling your friends, telling your neighbors, telling your family, telling your priest, tell everyone, and leave a comment. We want to hear what you think. You can keep in touch by following us on social media. This is a Life in Michigan production. Until next time, be well and kick out the jam.